This is Australia's Murray-Darling Basin. This is Mildura, a city on the banks of the mighty River Murray in northwest Victoria. It's at the heart of an agricultural region known as Sunraysia, a producer of crops including grapes, citrus, almonds, olives, and vegetables. More than 90% of Australian exported table grapes come from this region. But this oasis looked very different 150 years ago.
Here in the semi-arid Mallee, the land is flat, low-lying and sandy. Carefully shaped and managed by First Nations people for more than 50,000 years. This country was, on the face of it, incompatible with European ideas of farming. Early settlers went so far as to describe the region as a howling wilderness, covered in dismal scrub. All that was to change in the 1880s, when entrepreneurial Canadians, George and William Chaffee, introduced to Australia a proven method for making towns and cities bloom in the desert. It can be hard to comprehend how fast things moved in the fledgling colonies of Australia in the 19th century. When explorer Charles Sturt traced the Murrumbidgee River from Gundagai downstream to its junction with the Murray in 1829, the rivers of the Murray-Darling Basin were still something of a mystery to the European settlers. Sturt journeyed down the Murray to reach its mouth in February 1830. 20 years later, with the new colony of Victoria declared and the gold rush on the way, the Murray was becoming a trade highway, a critical route for paddle steamers carrying people, produce, the wool clip, and other goods across the basin. By the 1870s, hundreds of steamers were plying the river.
However, points of difference over the use of the River Murray had begun to emerge between the fiercely independent colonies of South Australia, Victoria, and New South Wales. For one thing, each had different systems and rates for collecting customs duties on river trade. Between 1857 and 1865, representatives from the three governments came together for intercolonial conferences, seeking agreement over issues including the use of the River Murray. Little progress was made.
Meanwhile, new pressure points were emerging. The age of the steam train was bearing down, with New South Wales and Victoria starting to invest more heavily in rail infrastructure as a means of moving goods. This was a blow for South Australia, whose main asset was its position at the export end of the River Murray trade highway. Against this background, a series of severe droughts hit southeastern Australia in the 1860s, 1880s and 1890s. Across the basin, river levels fell dramatically and parts of the Darling River ran dry. But in Mildura, the conditions were right for a bold new approach to agriculture and settlement to be tested. With the introduction of limited irrigation in the Murray-Darling Basin in the 1870s, colonial governments started to wonder, could they harness the rivers to create a reliable supply of water for agriculture, even in apparently inhospitable remote regions? Fresh from building a successful irrigation colony on arid land in California, and encouraged by Victorian Premier Alfred Deakin, brothers George and William Chaffee bought land along the Murray in Mildura and in Renmark, South Australia. Starting in 1887, they laid out irrigation channels at both locations and developed a series of steam-driven pumps to bring water from the river up to the channels. They laid out the foundations of town centres, and Australia's first planned irrigation colonies were born. The Murrumbidgee irrigation area of New South Wales and other irrigation districts would be established across the basin in the following decades. Early harvests from the Chaffee's pioneering projects were abundant, but there were major challenges. These included low river levels caused by drought, salinity exacerbated by irrigation, and disputes about water rights and land boundaries.
To top it all off, the nation went into an economic recession in the early 1890s. In 1895, the Chafees went into liquidation.
In the early years of the 20th century, under the management of the Mildura Irrigation Trust, and with the benefit of a new railway link, the Chaffey project would rise from the ashes. The irrigation area around Mildura, straddling both Victoria and New South Wales, would become known as Sunraysia and stand as a model for projects around the country. Large-scale irrigation was a game changer for Australian agriculture, but there were early signs of what could happen if it was left unchecked. Land clearing for agriculture and settlement had already significantly impacted the basin's ecosystems, particularly wetlands. This led to reduced river flows, increased salinity, and habitat loss for native species. But it was water security, not the environment, that concerned Australians at this time. In the 1880s, it was noted that pumping for irrigation could divert the entire late summer flow of the Murray. The New South Wales Parliament predicted that diversion of River Murray flows could lead to periods of no flow downstream. The stakes were obviously high for South Australia. Low flows downstream would threaten access to drinking water and the navigability of the Murray, on which the South Australian economy depended.
The other two colonies were unmoved. In 1886, Victoria passed legislation declaring that water rights were state property. New South Wales followed suit the same year. The impasse with South Australia still remained, and the issue was placed firmly on the agenda for the Constitutional Conventions of 1897 and 1898. Surely, the problem with water rights could be solved with the crafting of a new constitution.